But why were you messaging all of us about New Orleans? Are you going to New Orleans?
Oh, that's like, it would take me too long to explain about why I needed someone in New Orleans. I need someone to pick up something for me, basically. It's really sketchy.
Let's do it.
Oh, wow.
What's up, everybody? And hope you had a great, restful holiday break. I'm sure many of you were glued to the Awesemo YouTube feeds over the course of the last few days, so maybe you didn't take a break at all. Maybe you're still consistently betting and playing lineups and doing all that you do with so many of our other hosts and analysts that have been with you along the way. I know I enjoyed a couple of days, so obviously, that was nice. But right back at it with a couple of shows today, and it begins here with a look at the NBA Jock Market variety. As Geoff, Ulrich, and I am Adam Kaufman. We get together this time every single week to explore all things in the NBA, which, Moose, first and foremost, happy holidays to you. And secondly, this is just a mess. It continues to be a disaster in the NBA. I don't, at least as of right this moment, we don't have any games postponed for tonight from this 9-game slate. Sounds like it could happen. Miami and San Antonio might get postponed, but right now everything is on. How are you feeling about what lies in front of us?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's nice to come back from a little break and just know that the NBA is still basically dealing with the exact same issues that it was before. I don't know, man. I mean, it's like we've said before, like we've done this like 2 weeks in a row, feels like, with the COVID stuff. It's kind of fun. Like there's opportunity. You can really dive in deep. And I mean, look, if you're playing NBA DFS anyways, you're kind of used to all this like in and outs. I know this is like on steroids kind of thing, the times 10, but I mean, you're either someone who's really hardcore NBA, you follow all the news, you're into this stuff anyways. This is almost just like creating like an awesome opportunity. So it is what it is. I've just kind of become numb to it by now, but yeah, fun to talk about anyways. I love doing this show every week. So
it is wild. There's so many guys that are out tonight, key guys, whether of course because of injuries or more often than not health and safety protocols. The NBA, we talked about this last week. Adam Silver told ESPN, yeah, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't care what the NHL did. We are not pausing. We are playing through this thing. And of course, they had their regular 5-game Christmas slate. Seemingly, it was successful. I'm sure the ratings were there. And so play on, play on, play on. And so you look at what we've got going on tonight from this 9-game slate. As I always like to begin, I just, outlining the key guys that are available to you as of right now. We'll see what changes in the next 6 hours, but guys that are available to you right now, of course, LeBron James and Trae Young, Tyler Hero, Damian Lillard, John Morant, Kristaps Porzingis, Russell Westbrook, Jaylen Brown, Domantas Sabonis, LaMelo Ball. I'd say that's a good place to cap it in terms of the, real studs. You can mix in, I suppose, Julius Randle and Zach LaVine as well, just considering what they're priced at, Jock Market or whatever platform that you're interested in playing. But in terms of guys that are just in great spots, feel like you have to begin with Tyler Hero. Really, it starts with Miami. Again, if this game is played, Tyler Hero is in a sensational spot tonight against San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have him ranked up high. I mean, he's in the top 5 in terms of projections on Awesemo. And again, just to give Awesemo a little bit shout out, Alex really good at updating the rankings for NBA. He's really on top of this stuff. It's a really, really good tool to use. You can check them out. The Jock Market one's on Awesemo as well, but he's a top 5 projected play. Obviously, like his fair value price on Jock Market is up there as well today. I mean, this is like no surprise that Tyler Hero's in a good spot. Jimmy Butler is out, and when Jimmy Butler is out, it creates just like a huge void for the Miami Heat. Obviously, I think we all realize that by now, just with the amount of minutes he plays and stuff like that. So, it's. Hero is definitely a player you obviously want to keep an eye on, but with him priced up as well, I mean, I think that you really have to decide, like, is Tyler Hero like the guy I'm going to pay up for, or do I just make this like a LeBron night and just grab him, because that's the guy who's really spiking in the rankings right now. It's LeBron James. I mean, we have him for a fair IPO like of over $16, which is like $4 above his Jock Market fair price. He's tops of the projection. That's kind of what we're getting here from the information, saying, Hero's nice. Maybe Trae Young is in a really good spot too, probably a better spot, but LeBron is kind of the player maybe you should be starting with.
Well, and LeBron went last night. He was phenomenal. So if he can do it on a back-to-back, if he even plays the back-to-back, we assume he's going to be out there. He's not, as far as I can tell, even a game time decision right now beyond the typical kind of game time decision, probable type stuff. He is expected to be out there. We know Anthony Davis is not going to be. Also for the Lakers, Trevor Ariza, Rajon Rondo, they're among those that are out. Kent Bazemore, Wayne Ellington, game time decisions. But I just want to go back to this Miami thing, because obviously we were talking about Tyler Hero and where he ranks among the studs, but you mentioned Jimmy Butler. It just goes so far beyond Jimmy Butler, which is, again, part of why this game may not get played tonight against the Spurs. This game is in San Antonio, 8:30 Eastern tonight. So Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Dedmon, Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo, PJ Tucker, all these guys are out. They've got 8 guys in protocols, basically the equivalent of Moose and me are going to be out there playing alongside Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson in this game. You look at the best plays. Again, if you want to save a little bit of loot, go down in terms of your fair IPO prices, some cheaper guys who are just positioned well to go off, because who the hell else is going to? Again, it's Hero, it's Caleb Martin, it's Duncan Robinson, it's Omer, as I like to call him, because I have no idea how to pronounce that. Omer Y, you might say.
Let's put it simply. There's Duncan Robinson, there's Caleb Stewart, and I don't even know.
Martin.
Caleb Martin, excuse me. I don't even know I could barely even remember Caleb Martin. The rest of the players, I don't even know. I can't even sit here and give you a take.
You're not going to roster Marcus Garrett tonight.
Sure.
Who is that? Are we sure he's not a football player?
No, we're not. That's the problem. You look at this game too. I mean, I don't know. Hero's in a good spot. We get it, but is this just going to be a blowout? And it's just going to be so bad that the points won't even be there. I mean, I think there's a realistic possibility of that happening too. I don't know. I mean, I guess the Spurs are only 7-point favorites here, but I don't know. It's got that feeling. So there's so much potential of that happening with every one of these games that it really does. You just have to be careful. I think Tyler Hero's fine, but I think everybody in the world knows that.
Yeah.
And I just keep coming back to LeBron. I know it's a back-to-back, but like LeBron James, he knows he needs to carry the team right now. And I think that with him having missed time, he's fresh. He's going to keep doing that for the near future. So, the Miami situation is crazy. It's interesting. It's fun to watch, but I just don't know how much fantasy value there is. I feel like Hero's IPO is just going to be super popular. And I think you're going to get better values on other guys tonight.
Well, so for LeBron, he is, as far as what's listed on Jock Market right now, he's $12.17 is fair price. He's projected for about 52 points. Then you look at our Awesemo projections, and the numbers are much different than that. He's projected for about 48.5 points, but the fair IPO price is $16.70. So obviously you have a pretty substantial difference there in the prices per share. How are you approaching this as it relates to LeBron in terms of not just whether you're buying, because again, you're a big believer, but when you're buying?
Yeah, I mean, with LeBron, you could certainly try and wait in game if he gets in, if you think the IPO is too popular. I mean, that's definitely something. I do think that people will be hyper focused on Tyler Hero and Trae Young today, because the situations there have just created this void where it's legitimately there's nobody else on the team. I mean, we're not, and that's not hyperbole. It's legitimately Trae Young and Tyler Hero are the offense tonight for those teams. And I think people will be hyper focused on that. And then with LeBron playing the back-to-back, I don't think you necessarily will need to pay up for LeBron as much as you think in the IPO. And I think he's going to play a ton. So I think you just buy in. If it does get too pricey, you can definitely look to buy the dip. But I expect LeBron to be out there for another 38, 40 minutes. I think that the team needs him to do that right now. And I think he will carry the team for stretches. We've seen him do it. So that's how I'd be playing him. I think these other guys, Hero and Young, especially, I don't know if there's going to be any dip on these guys. I mean, unless they're just playing horribly or something, but I think you either are in on those guys or you're out, because again, everybody knows what's happening here. There's just no other options. So
If you guys have any questions, by the way, get them in watching along on the YouTube feed or Twitter, wherever you're finding us. We greatly appreciate it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button here on the Awesemo YouTube page. Obviously, if you are getting us there in a little chat, we will respond. We've got you for another, 15, 20 minutes before we get out of here, and obviously tackling this NBA slate tonight. So another game that, again, the expectation is that it's going to happen. We just kind of have to hedge everything with that, because there have been sort of late last minute postponements. But another game that is littered with guys in protocols is you have this Detroit New York game. So beginning with the Pistons, where again, Moose, there are 8 guys in protocols here for Detroit. Cade Cunningham is a game time decision. We'll see if he plays, but Jeremy Grant at last look, Killian Hayes, Josh Jackson, Corey Joseph, Kelly Olynyk, Isaiah Stewart, whether it's COVID or injury, these guys are all out tonight. So you have to look at, you can decide if you want to pay up for the likes of, let's say, Saddiq Bey is someone you could obviously think about. Diallo is someone who's always a good consideration for the Pistons. Maybe you want to go down a little bit. Maybe you want to look at Luka Garza, who I'm pretty sure is a pitcher in Major League Baseball, but since it's the offseason, he's playing hoop a little bit right now. Frank Jackson, Derek Walton Jr. is a name that's never come out of my mouth before. These are things, that you could consider going into this one, specifically on that side.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the Detroit situation is more interesting too, because there's not like that dominant, like Tyler Hero, Trae Young scorer. I think there's going to be a little bit more opportunity for some of these, scrubbish guys. And how dare you disrespect Luka Garza, man? I actually do like him quite a bit tonight. He actually, the last game he was out, he actually got into foul trouble and he still played 20 minutes and had 31 points. This is a pretty good matchup against the Knicks. Like, not really like a great rebounding team or anything like that. I think Garza is definitely should be on your radar, man. Like that is a player I would be buying in. If this game gets played, and I think this game is one like that could get canceled, but if it gets played, yeah, I mean, the Detroit players, like somebody's got to do something. And I think Garza is in a spot where, I mean, again, like he was in foul trouble. He still got 20 minutes last game. I mean, I think he could push for more minutes here, and it's a good matchup. So great matchup. Definitely like that play a lot. Check Diallo as well. I mean, kind of a similar story. I would take Garza over him.
Diallos.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Check Diallo is definitely like another cheap option, but I think Garza is like the main guy. Like, yeah, and I don't even think paying up for Saddiq Bey is bad either. I mean, I think it's almost like the poor man's version of like a Tyler Hero. Like, it's just he's going to be touching the ball a ton. He's going to have a ton of usage just because of the situation. We know he's playing 40 minutes. He's not like the most efficient fantasy producer, but been pretty close to a point per game, like over his last few starts, if not like right at it. I mean, just looking quickly, like where we have him rated. I mean, it seems like a player like Saddiq Bey is just kind of go under the radar tonight. And I just want to check where he's been finishing here on Jock Market. Oh man, yeah, his fair IPO isn't even like that big, but
yeah, fair IPO right now, it's projected. It's $5.10 for about 32 projected points. I could see where he's listed currently, but that's what Alex has him at.
It's interesting, like his last 5 games on Jock Market, he's produced a negative ROI in 2 of his last 5 games, but the negative ROIs has only been like 20%. The positive ROIs, he had a top 4 finish 5 games ago, 185% return, 53% return 4 games ago, and then 2 games ago he had a 76% return ROI. I think that's a player who, again, like a really good floor. It's an example of a perfect floor player. His loss probably isn't going to hit you too bad if he has a bad night because he's going to play so much, but his upside is there. So again, I like this Detroit game. That's the one I really wanted to talk about. I think you can go with a couple players here. Like, I think Saddiq Bey is definitely a play. And like I said, Garza, another player you should be talking about.
All right. So I think we can agree there are a lot of attractive options there for Detroit, especially as it relates to something like Jock Market. But what about on the other side for New York? We know that Rose is out, Noel's out, House is out. Most of the guys that you would expect to be available under normal circumstances project to be. Randall, Walker, Barrett, Fournier, Robinson, Burks, quickly, guys like that. Noel may play. I see we have him in our projections. I was looking at another site that listed him as out, so we'll see which way that goes. But he's not a key player anyway. So all the other guys that I rattled off before, any interest? I mean, do you view any of them as being in a really good spot when they're all available?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, yeah. I mean, it is a good spot, right? Like, they're 8-point favorites. They obviously have a pretty solid implied team total. you just like, it's really hard to project the minutes for these guys because they have a full roster. And if they get up by 15 late or something, like how much is Kemba Walker playing? I think Kemba Walker with Rose out, probably the guy I would take. Again, there's really nobody on Detroit we need to worry about in terms of just like, he's gonna shut us out or just defensively or anything like that. But you just need to think about it. I mean, these guys' minutes could get cut a little bit, so they're not super attractive. I think Kemba Walker, though, we know like his upside is ridiculous, and I think that going up against such a weak team, just a weak lineup in Detroit with Derrick Rose out, I think you just play that usage bump. And again, I mean, we know, I mean, he's playing over 40 minutes. He's playing, even in like shorter games, even in a game where he sucked, quite frankly, against Minnesota's last time out, he played 33 minutes. Like, it's a pretty safe floor with Kemba Walker. He's a bit more of a boomer bust play, like compared to Saddiq Bey, even, because Saddiq Bey is going to get you 30 points, almost no matter what in the spot. But I think Walker's upside is very much intact. So if you want to take a little piece of this offense, I don't hate it, but it is one of those spots. It just feels like all the minutes could just kind of get petered out, and you maybe have like one player go off, and I don't really know which player it is. And I just feel like with all the outages, there's better spots to target. But at the same time, I don't hate Kemba Walker, mainly just playing the Derrick Rose factor.
Knicks, of course, won their last couple. Detroit, the worst team in the NBA at 5-27. They have lost their last three, but takes us from the worst to one of the best, not quite at the top with the Golden States and Phoenixes of the world, but also in the West. And you got Utah. This is a game we got to talk about here, Geoff, because Utah and Portland, Jazz have won 4 straight. The Blazers on the other side, very mediocre. In fact, that might even be a compliment right now, and they've lost their last 2. You have a key guy out on each side. For Utah, generally healthy, except there's no Donovan Mitchell. For the Blazers, of course, Damian Lillard is out there, but CJ McCollum is unavailable. Robert Covington, Ben McLemore, Yusuf Nurkic, Dennis Smith, they are all out. They've got 7 guys in protocols on that Blazers team. There are a lot of attractive options, both sides in this game. Starting here with Utah, I don't think I'd be looking to pay all the way up for, Rudy Gobert, let's say. But after that, seems like everybody's fair game. Conley, Clarkson, Bogdanovich, Ingles, O'Neal, Gay, any of these guys, really solid plays.
Yeah. Again, this is a good game to target for a couple reasons. You mentioned the outages, but also, I mean, like Utah's 7-point favorites. We got a 228 game total. I mean, It's the biggest on the slate. So they basically have the biggest implied team total on the slate. I mean, this is right. This is a spot where we're expecting a lot of points, and we've got some outages here. Obviously, the biggest one is Donovan Mitchell. I think I tend to agree with you. I mean, it's a good spot for some of these shooters, potentially, like a guy like Jordan Clarkson to get off. Bogdanovich as well. That's probably where I would go outside of Rudy Gobert. It's a little bit like the New York Knicks situation. Like, you almost wonder, like, you have to pick between 5 guys, and it just seems like picking between 5 guys is like suboptimal with so many COVID outages. But I think the spot is kind of too good to just completely ignore. I really do think like Clarkson is probably, just with the outages on the other side and the stuff that's going on, he's probably like just because his upside is going to be heightened a little bit. That's probably where I would start. But, you mentioned a few other names. Rudy Gay is a guy who still, he can produce. I mean, he can pop up. So with like a really efficient performance. It's on Whiteside. Absolutely another one. I think taking a shot with a guy like Whiteside and maybe adding in a shooter like Clarkson definitely has some value here. You should, and then on the flip side, you can almost stack this game. Like you could think like, okay, if I'm going to play Damian Lillard, and Lillard's going to keep this game close for me, you could go back to the other side and say, okay, well, if it's going to be close, we're going to see a ton of points. Take Clarkson and like Whiteside, because if this game is close and we get over on the 228, I mean, there's going to be a boatload of points on the Utah side. So I think that's one way to approach this game. You're kind of looking at it as, am I going to stack? I'm going to take a basket of players from it, make some bids on Lillard, and then go to the Utah side for some cheaper guys. Or am I just going to ignore it? Because, like, admittedly, there are a few better spots. Although with all the outages on Portland, I mean, guys like Norm Powell as well become in play too.
Well,
Larry Nance Jr., one of my favorites.
Yeah, like Nance is a guy you like to talk about. We've mentioned him on a bunch of shows in the past, but I mean, Nasir Little, who's obviously out of protocols, he's back. Anthony Simons, both these guys are in great spots.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just Nance, absolutely. I mean, these guys are all going to be playing 20 plus minutes, 25 plus minutes. It just really comes down to, is this game going to be a blowout or not? I mean, I don't really, again, Portland probably not as good a spot for me as Detroit, because I just don't think their tertiary production guys are like as productive as some of the guys on Detroit has a chance to be. But yeah, I think Nance would definitely be on my list, and probably a guy like, probably Simons as well. I mean, Anthony Simons is probably the other one, just because there's the potential there for an upside night. But I'm not really in love with any of these Portland guys. I think that you still, if you're betting on multiple players from this game, you start with Lillard and you take kind of the value-ish guys on Utah, because they could just get forgotten about on a night like this too. Like a Clarkson, a Whiteside. Don't forget, I mean, this is the team that's projected to score the most points on the slate. There's going to be points there, even if they win in a blowout. So,
again, as it relates to injuries, absences, outages, as you called it, all of that stuff. Another game is just fascinating from the standpoint of star power being unavailable. It's this Celtics game at home against the Clippers. Both these teams, they've each lost 2 in a row. Something's got to give, obviously, for LA, as we know, and this is the case all year. There's no Kawhi Leonard, except Paul George is unavailable here for this one. There's no Nick Batum. There's no Isaiah Hartenstein. There's no Reggie Jackson. There's no Brandon Boston now in Boston. And then for the Celtics, of course, Jason Tatum is in COVID protocols. One of, I think it's still 7 in protocols for the C's. So Jaylen Brown will be out there, but again, no Tatum. Schroeder is out of protocols. Richardson's out of protocols. They could be seemingly available, but Marcus Smart, game time decision. So there are just so many questions in this game. Is it a wait and see for you?
I mean, it's a wait and see from maybe from like the Boston side more. I don't know if you need to wait on the Clippers side. I mean, I think there's plenty of good plays on the Clippers side. Personally.
Marcus Morris senior revenge game.
Yeah, totally. Luke Kennard. Again, these guys are, Marcus Morris, I think has a pretty safe floor. I mean, again, Morris is a guy almost like Saddiq Bey, getting like just going to have really good usage. He gets on the floor, and he's just a really good fantasy producer with what he's got with when he gets those extra minutes, and very similar to Saddiq Bey. He's returned positive ROI 5 of his last 6 games now on Jock Market. He has 1 game where he had a negative ROI. It was minus 42, but I mean, again, like he's not losing you like 100% or something. So I think the floor with Marcus Morris he's just a good investment. Like he's kind of like one of those, like he's almost like a better investment than Bey, because his upside is really unreal. Although he's probably not going to be as cheap as he was in some of those other games, but still pretty good value there. Just going to see where we have him projected on our site on Awesemo. I'm assuming it's going to be pretty strong, but
this is Morris you're looking for?
This is going to take me longer than I thought. So.
No, I can get it. This is Morris you're looking for?
Here we go. Yeah, Morris is projected a pretty strong play.
Yeah, so. He's projected for about 26 points, $2.60 is fair IPO price.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, like I think Marcus Morris is definitely a play. I don't really have to wait on, but I think you can grab multiple Clippers, man, because I think Kennard definitely like more of a boomer bust. I think Luke Kennard won't be as popular. Zubac.
Serge Ibaka.
Yep. Serge Ibaka. Sure. Absolutely. Zubac, Serge Ibaka. I'm not sure, like the minutes for Ibaka have kind of been up and down, but so maybe Zubac is a better play, but I think you can take multiple players from the Clippers tonight. Boston side is probably fine too. I just, it's probably a little bit more wait and see.
Yeah. I mean, again, Marcus Smart, if he plays, I think is in a good spot.
Yeah.
Al Horford's in a good spot, although Robert Williams is available and his freedom is in protocols. Still getting used to saying that one, obviously. So there's, I don't know. I mean, maybe this is Jaylen Brown's opportunity to shine. I mean, it wasn't, of course, last game, just a couple of days ago, Tatum was out his first game in protocols, and it was the opportunity to be the Brown show. And he was not very good. He got his points, but, ultimately, shot was off. He just wasn't very impressive.
Is Williams's minutes going to stay steady? Like, is he going to get
Robert Williams?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, again, provided health, provided he's got that, I would say.
I mean, like, I think grabbing like a piece of like a Williams or a Smart. I mean, Marcus Smart probably going to be pretty popular, but
yeah,
I mean, I like the idea of just grabbing like maybe even Horford or Williams, one of the two, and then coming back on the other side with a couple plays. Like, I like this game probably better than the one we talked about. I know Portland, Utah has that massive, upside with the game total, but I just feel like that it's easier to pick players here. And again, like that's the theme of the night with players out and the Clippers just being like down 3 top players. It's just so easy to cherry pick these guys off the Clippers roster that I think you almost need to do it. So yeah, for Jock market, I think, guys like Marcus Morris on the other side, Kennard, and then coming back with maybe like a Williams, who's still going to have elevated minutes with a couple guys out. I mean, I know the Boston situation is as bad as some other places, but he's out there a lot. Horford, same thing. Like they're going to get better usage with no Tatum. So
let's talk one more game anyway before we do get out of here in a few minutes, because this game is this is wild. You got this Atlanta situation, the Hawks in Chicago. Right. Of course, the Bulls have won their last 4. Hawks have dropped their last 2, but Atlanta has I can't even say it with a straight face. 13 guys in protocols. There are 13 players. It's basically longer than an NBA. Haven't they been in
protocols for like 3 weeks too? Like
yeah, more or less. Wave. Yeah. So guys,
they have their own variants out in Atlanta now.
Right, more or less. Yeah, forget Omicron. They've got whatever they've got. Yeah. It's the Atlanta virus. Trae Young is obviously available, which is huge. Clint Capella, same deal. Cam Reddish, certainly we can talk about. But among those out, the other Bogdanovich, John Collins, Danilo Gallinari, Kevin Huerter, Lou Williams, DeLon Wright, all these guys are out tonight. On the other side for Chicago, Lonzo Ball and Patrick Williams. So as you're looking specifically at the Hawks, I mentioned Capella and Reddish. Skylar Mays is in a really good spot. Chaundi Brown Jr., another guy who I'm certain I've never said his name out loud in my entire life. Where are you looking for Atlanta?
Yeah, I think Chaundi Brown is actually kind of interesting. Like, I don't know. I'm again, you look at Trae Young, he's pretty safe. He's like, I don't think you're gonna like lose a bundle on Trae Young, but you're gonna have to pay up for him. And we talked about guys, bring up Marcus Morris or a Sadiq Bey again. I think you're getting those guys for cheaper shares. And I really feel like you're getting a very similar floor with those guys, just based on what you're paying compared to what you have to pay to Trae Young. You're gonna have to pay all the way up for Trae Young. You're gonna have to really go hard in the IPOs. Guys like Bey and Morris, you're not gonna have to pay as much. But I think that those guys, just with the safety of minutes, like their upside is actually going to be better than Trae Young's, because if they do go off, the return on investment is going to be better. The shares are going to be cheaper for you in those areas. I just don't feel the need to pay up for Trae Young here. I just think he's going to be too popular. I know the points are going to be there, and I'm not even saying he's like a bad investment. I just think there's better upside with similar floors to other investments tonight. So I think when I look at the Atlanta, I'm looking more at guys like, Brown, again, probably going to play 30 minutes, be very cheap, maybe make like a cheap investment here. I mean, is Lance Stevenson still getting minutes? I don't know, but
is it 2011?
That's how I'm looking at Atlanta. I mean, I know like you could definitely pay up for Trae Young. It's probably fine, but you just all you have to do is, again, you go on and just look at the last few returns on investment, like 40%, 50%. That's fine for Trae Young. But some of those other guys are returning a little bit better, and they're just as consistent, and their downside is just the same as Trae Young. So I don't mind it, but I still side with LeBron. I think, assuming we get, everything's fine, he plays, and I think he will. But interesting spot. You could certainly start with Trae Young if you want. I just feel like there's better opportunities out there tonight.
So for Chicago, though, I mentioned there's no Lonzo Ball, but you do have, Vooch is out there, Levine's out there, DeRozan's out there. But because there's no Lonzo, you feeling good about Kobe White tonight? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's kind of who gets the bump in minutes. I mean, I don't feel like great about it, I guess, but it's fine. I mean, he's out there. I mean, he's going to have minutes. He's probably going to be a cheap play in the IPOs as well. I think Chicago is more a situation where I almost don't mind paying up for one of the studs. Like they still have DeRozan and Levine, correct? So like, I don't know how much Kobe White is necessarily going to like get a bump. I know he'll be out there, but it's not like he's shooting the ball a ton. I still think that like with how beat up Atlanta is, I actually like attacking more with the studs than sort of the cheaper plays. I think DeRozan's fine. I think if you can get him for cheaper than Levine, like I'll just take that. But I think both those guys, Levine and DeRozan, have some value. So I'm not super into the value guys necessarily on Chicago with the two studs playing. again, once those studs come out, then the usages really go up for the secondary guys. But I like Kobe White will be out there. I just don't think he's going to be a super elite producer from a fantasy points perspective. Minute.
All right. Well, I think it's time for us to go because it's been a half hour and that's what they tell us we should do. But there's plenty more great content coming your way on the Awesemo YouTube pages today at 2 o'clock Eastern, 30 minutes from now. You will not have Geoff, but you will have a lot of NHL talk. The NHL Strategy Show, 11 gamer tonight. It'll be Cliffy and Harris. Eitan and Terry coming your way from the No House Advantage NBA Strategy Show. That will be at 4. I will come back at 4:30 for the Yahoo NBA Wednesday night live show, as opposed to the typical Thursday football show. There's no more Thursday night football this year, so we're moving things to Wednesdays and a little NBA conversation. Me and Aaron Berg still together for that one, though, so tune in. And 5 o'clock NBA Deeper Dive, it'll be Alex and Bearded Adam, and Greg comes back with Eric 6 o'clock for the NBA Live Before Lock show for a solid 90 minutes. So should be a good time, a lot of fun. We want to thank our guy Mike Awesemo himself for helping to make this possible, obviously. Moose, just great to be reunited with you after the holiday, and look forward to many, many more Jock Market NBA shows every Wednesday at 1 Eastern between now and the end of the year. Should be a good time. And I don't mean the end of the year, because that's just a couple days away. So Happy New Year if you don't join us later on today. Moose, pleasure, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody have a good day. Forgot to mention Kristaps Porzingis, who's one of my favorite plays as well, but there you go. I'll end the show by saying
play him. You got to buy him, bid up. See ya.